Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so there's one more video for me to make, and that's the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. Now, I made this video already, but I was having so many upload issues, and I made a grave mistake in the video, just with a brain fart, putting Buddy Yield on the Rockets. I was gonna laugh about it, but then I realized I've had to make so many of these videos over again. I might as well just delete that one since it was such a terrible mistake. So that's what I'm doing here. I don't think Buddy Hield's on the Rockets. I don't even know where my head was at. I was walking down the street, probably just distracted. I don't know where I was at. But nevertheless, Buddy Hield is a Golden State Warrior, and that is something I'm very clear on. And so that was a mistake I made you'll never know about. Let's get into the prediction, though. Houston Rockets, man. The Houston Rockets are a very, very athletic basketball team. They have some real defensive pieces, like Amen Thompson, for example, that you have to deal with. Um, Steven Adams, a guy off their bench, obviously full of force, you got to deal with. Dylan Brooks as well. You know, these are players that you're going to have to really consider. Now, the season series for this particular team goes as followed. The Warriors won the first game. The Warriors won the second game. The Rockets won the third game. The Warriors won the fourth game, and somehow they played 5 games, where the Rockets won that 5th game. I don't know if they played in the play-in tournament. Maybe that's probably how that had to be how that went. So yeah, man. I mean, you know, the Warriors won the series 3-2. And the Rockets have been a better team all season long. Now, of course, there's a lot of different things that have happened since then. I didn't go over all these games to see who all played in these games or who didn't play or in all of these different things. Of course, the Jimmy Butler trade has changed the GS Dub team. Houston still remains the same squad they've been. But it's pretty even. That's the moral of the story. They're pretty even. You know, Steph Curry had real issues against this Houston Rockets team in one of those games. He went 1 for 10 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3 for 3 points, one of the worst games he's ever had, being tracked around by none other than Amen Thompson. And maybe that can be the story here. Is Amen Thompson going to turn himself into being considered a legitimate threat to defend Steph Curry? And if so, that can shift things early. And if he has this type of success, which I would imagine he wouldn't, but this type of success, who knows how this series is going to go. I think at the end of the day, for me, the Golden State Warriors, they are an older team at the top and a younger team in the back of their bench. It's essentially what I see there. You got your Draymond Green, your Jimmy Butler, and Steph Curry. But then after that, you start looking at the roster and you start seeing guys like Trace Jackson Davis, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Quentin Post, Guy Santos, Kevin Knox, Pat Spencer. It stops being about experience and starts being about severe inexperience. Kevon Looney, of course, is on this squad. Got to give him his credit. Gary Payton II also needs to be in there with the winners who've been there a long time. Buddy Yield is also on this team, as we clearly mentioned. But, like, you know, it starts becoming a situation where you have a tale of two teams. Because really, in my opinion, they've tried to tether between two timelines. And so what you have is a severely underdeveloped back of their team. And I'm not sure if they're not relying upon some of those people a little too much. Meanwhile, with the Houston Rockets, that's not really how their team is constructed. They are more youth through lottery. So the young players are the meat and potatoes of what they have. You would expect to see more talent in their youth and maybe, you know, the other way around, less talent with their vets and less vets in general, which I think can work against them in this series. I think a lot of antics could be run against the Houston Rockets, stuff that you probably would identify if you're a 10-year vet, but maybe not if you're a 3-year guy. And so that's kind of what I see there. But at the end of the day, the Rockets have been a better team all year, and it needs to be understood. Now, Jock Landale will not be available in Game 1. I know they like to utilize him as a backup center. Deshaun Tate is also out for Game 1. And Jabari Smith is out, apparently. Or maybe that's not true. No, that's not true. That's another date. So they're going to be out, Deshaun Tate and Jock Landale. Players that they've been using some. So that's just noteworthy there. Of course, you got to consider Jimmy Butler. He did get hit in the groin or in the knee area somewhere um, in a mid-air play about a week and a half ago. I don't know if he's healed from that fully or not. He has since played, but I wonder if that's going to be something to consider. But the thing about the Houston Rockets that I see is a lot of wing talent. Terry Eason, Jalen Green, Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks, um, Jashawn Tate, Amon Thompson, Cam Whitmore. You know, it's a lot of guys there that are 6'7", 6'8". They can really play ball on both sides of the floor and provide a lot of athleticism. A guy like Terry Eason basically broke out this year. He's really played well with the minutes given, kind of on a lesser role than you would want him to be. If you're his representation, for example, you probably think he has some star upside. But on this team, he's just kind of like a starter, a role guy. I don't even know if they start him, but he might be like the first guy off the bench or something like that. Very, very talented dude, though. Going to make a name for himself in this series, without a doubt. Dylan Brooks has been hitting shots much better this year. I call him Dylan Bricks, but I don't know if that's really relevant for how he's been playing the second half of the season. He's actually turned himself into a better shot maker that's going to have to continue in this series, where shot making is going to be key. Jalen Green, high upside, but low floor. That's my problem with Jalen Green. It's just the vast nature of his abilities. Some days he'll go off and be the best player on the floor. Other days he'll go out and overshoot and miss damn near everything. Those games, the latter, those can't happen against the Golden State Warriors too often for them to have success. They're going to need him to temper his shot diet if the shot isn't falling, in my opinion, and I don't think he's wired to do that at all. Aaron Holiday is a nice role player on this team who hits shots as well. You're going to need him to play well with the minutes given. Alperen Sengun, of course, one of the best centers out there, man. Baby Jokic, basically, he's going to do great things. I'm just going to tell you right now, the matchup between him and Draymond Green could be very fun, very physical. But Alpi is supremely talented at only 22 years old, 243 pounds. He's going to be a load to deal with. Jabari Smith coming off the bench, second overall pick in the draft about 3 years ago, 6'10". Been rebounding the ball great, man. That's where he's really been killing it. Since coming back from injury, I think he had some type of injury or hand injury or something like that halfway through the season. Since come back, should be in rhythm right now. I expect for him to have a really good series, man. I really do. Fred VanVleet, point guard, obviously champion. He's one of the vets here. He's going to have to play well, hit shots. He's been having some cold nights lately as I've been paying attention to the Rockets here and there. And so I'm wondering if him and Jalen Green are not what ultimately is going to determine how this goes. If they're both having a great shot-making series, this could really go Rockets' way. If they're both cold and overshooting, the Rockets have a hard time keeping up with a team like Golden State, who's probably not going to have that problem on most nights. The athleticism of a Cam Whitmore, the high upside of a role player like Reed Shepherd, I think gives the Rockets a damn good chance of being the better team in this series. Steven Adams in place to offset the physicality of a Draymond Green. I think that the small ball lineups of the Golden State Warriors could potentially have some issues rebounding over this Houston Rockets team. They're both very good rebounding teams. Don't get it confused by any stretch of the imagination. But the physicality of the centers of this Houston Rockets team, I don't know, is going to be matched very much by these Warriors. So that's one thing that I'm saying, just to look at the Warriors roster as well, give you an understanding of what I see here. It's just going to be incumbent upon Steve Kerr to use the right rotations. And, you know, Steve Kerr's been winning championships in every form of basketball since he came to the NBA. So I don't doubt that he has all the experience necessary winning to take care of business in the series. But sometimes, and a lot of people will attest to this, sometimes he just makes decisions that make you scratch your head, and often he loses when doing so. Jimmy Butler, 35 years of age, that's the question. Jimmy getting to the line is really money every time, and he's been taking care of himself for so long. He's been leading the way in Miami for so long. Till playoff Jimmy's a real thing. You don't doubt that if he puts up Hall of Fame numbers in this series, that's not outside of his DNA. We've seen Jimmy go for triple doubles with 30-something points. Jimmy Butler is one of the best players ever when it comes to the playoffs. And raising his game when it comes to playoff times, Playoff Jimmy is an actual thing that's already been proven many years over. So I would expect that this will be nothing less, and I expect for his game to elevate significantly in this series. Steph Curry, man, I don't even have to say too much. He's the greatest shooter ever, babyface assassin. Hasn't seemed to have lost any steps at all on the offensive end, and you got to deal with this dude. Chasing him around is unbelievably difficult. One of the best conditioned athletes in sports. He runs forever, and chasing him, even for a guy like Amen Thompson, is going to prove to be a very tall task. But if anybody can do it, it's Amen Thompson, and that's Steph's problem in this series. So we'll keep an eye open for that. Draymond Green. He's really taking care of himself. He looks good right now. Even though he's 35 years of age, he's still in good shape. Looks a little washed here and there at times, but his game's not predicated on shot making or anything like that. He still makes amazing passes. He still can push people around. He's still good for causing trouble, antics, offensive, defensive rebounding, guarding people. He's still one of the best defenders in the world. So Draymond Green's game is not changed from what it was 6-7 years ago. And even though he's aging, it's hard to tell sometimes because of what he does. It's so helpful on both sides of the floor. So Draymond's important. His shot making will be important in my opinion. He's going to be left open to hit threes. He's going to need to make them. Buddy Hield, man. Buddy Hield's a guy I'm low on. You guys know if you follow me, I just think Buddy Hield's name is bigger than his game at times. He is a really great three-point shooter, but he tends to run cold in this rotation. He tends to not really show up in the stats. Maybe there's more to it than that. I don't watch enough Golden State to know, but Buddy Hield I am not high on. But if he does play well in this series, it could really help the Golden State Warriors with their process, and leaving him open is a mistake. Trayce Jackson-Davis gets no minutes, but I'm very high on him. I'm praying he gets the hell out of there. I just don't see that he will get any minutes in this series, as he hasn't had any all year, but he's really good, and we know that. Kevin Knox, don't expect him to get too many minutes. Jonathan Kuminga, I think, will be very important in this series, man, to offset some of the athleticism of guys like Amen Thompson, to offset some of the speed that's coming at him in Cam Whitmore and Tyree Eason. Jonathan Kuminga is like that. He's one of those. In fact, I would love to see him in Houston with those guys instead of where he's at in a lot of situations. But just the same, Jonathan Kuminga, 22 years of age, looking for a contract, and they have really stumped his growth by giving him minimal minutes, I think, on purpose to try to stump that process. I think that's what they've been doing. And so you don't expect him to be on the floor as much, but they would be wise to utilize his piece in this series to give them the best chance of being able to match up. So I don't know if they're going to choose to do that. They seem to be on board as an organization of giving him like 20 minutes, 30 minutes a game here and there. But if they were to give him the real minutes and just allow him to get in rhythm, he could prove to be extremely helpful for the Golden State Warriors. Kevon Looney, tried and true, man, UCLA product, been around for block, won a championship. Maybe two of them, I'm not really sure, but he is somebody that barely misses a game, one of the Iron Men in this league. Broad shoulders, excellent offensive rebounder, still a sound half-court defender. Kevon Looney is somebody who at any moment can go crazy. We've seen it. The year that the Golden State Warriors won the championship, he was suddenly out of nowhere, after having a regular season just like he had right here, deployed regularly and just pulled down boards like a madman, and it's just unbelievably impossible to deal with. I would never be surprised to see that happen with him. He's already proven it. And so Kevon Looney is always somebody you need to circle as a problem. He's in a bit of a logjam with the forward spot. But I know that if anybody's going to offset guys like Steven Adams, it's going to be him. It's going to be him. So I think he'll get more run in this series than maybe usual. Moses Moody, always been a fan of Moses Moody. His shot can run hot and cold, but he's one of their better on-ball point of attack defenders. Moses Moody drives at the rim, gets to the line. I love his game. I think he's going to be someone who's extremely impactful in this series. They've been starting him, and they've been winning and doing so. Adding him to the starting lineup and then adding Jimmy Butler to the rotation has ultimately proven to be a winning formula. And I think if he's at his best, this could swing things in the Golden State direction. Gary Payton II dealt with injuries over the last couple of years, but he's a champion. We know who he is. He had a stint with the Lakers early on, so we know who he is. But this guy is an extreme defender, and he's starting to get his athleticism back. I think it's the wrong time to run to Gary Payton. Playoff time, he's going to raise his level of play. Gary Payton is a problem. Brandon Podziemski. Excellent rebounder at the guard spot, excellent shooter at the guard spot. If you underestimate him as a rebounder, it could be your deficit. Seriously, Brandon Podziemski, just an overall fantastic second-year guy, getting in rhythm. Had 8 threes against my Lakers. If he has a hot shooting night like that, I don't know that the Rockets have the shot making to keep up with him when he's clicking and Buddy's clicking and Steph Curry's clicking. They just have a bit more shot making than I think Houston's going to be able to provide themselves consistently. Guys can get hot in Houston, but guys can run cold. I don't think I have that much of a sway in regards to the shot makers of the Golden State Warriors. Quentin Post, nice center, rookie. They're going to need to utilize him at times. I don't know if they're going to want to, but because they are kind of short at the center position, he's one of the only 7-footers on this team, if not the only 7-footer on this team. So I think he'll be out there. But Quentin Post doesn't like playing in the post at all. If anything, he's a three-point shooter, so he's a little tricky. But they do have that stretch five that they're going to develop, and I think he could potentially make a name for himself in these playoffs if he gets hot. So keep an eye open for Quentin Post. He's going to be a problem for the Rockets. Guy Santos is a player I really like, role player that they've been utilizing. I don't know how many minutes he will get in the playoffs, but a young guy that I think has some upside is a nice role player. Guy Santos, be careful with him as a shot maker and a defender as well. He can do some things. And Pat Spencer, when they utilize him, he can be pretty fun, man. Pat Spencer, I think, made a name for himself in a different sport. I don't remember what sport it was, but it's like an alternate sport. He came over here, played basketball, and made his way. So that's how that went. For the Golden State Warriors, man, they also got a guy named Yuri Collins, of whom I'm not familiar with, and Braxton Key as well, I think is a rookie I'm not familiar with. So, yeah, man, the Golden State Warriors also have Tyron Armstrong. Should probably mention that guy as well, since I mentioned the entire roster. But I think that the Warriors roster, they're going to be relying upon some people that maybe you don't want to rely upon. Maybe you don't want to have Quentin Post and Guy Santos and have to utilize any of these people. But I think Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Buddy Hield, Gary Payton, Kevon Looney, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga will essentially be who you'll see the most out there. I think that. There will be times where you may need to use these guys. Obviously, Brandon Podziemski as well. There will be times when you need to use these people that I mentioned, but the majority of the time, the Houston Rockets are going to get a heavy dose of those players, I think. I'll say that the coach, though, Steve Kerr, tends to do some weird stuff. He tends to do weird stuff. So, all in all, man, my prediction before looking at the rosters, when I was walking down the street making all types of mistakes, was that the Golden State Warriors would be able to outclass the Houston Rockets in the sense that they would just end up losing because of the antics of the Golden State Warriors, making it very difficult for the young team to keep up with them in close games. Plus the shot making, I just can't rely upon. I think that the ability to hit shots for the Rockets could be phenomenal, but the low floor of their shot making, I just don't see with the Golden State Warriors. Now, where the Warriors could lose this game is if they have a washed big three. Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Steph Curry. If they play washed, they could lose. Amen Thompson is a wild card in the sense that his defense is so incredible. If he also gets it clicking, hitting shots and stuff like that, if he wants to step into his scoring bag, that could make things very difficult, especially if Jalen Green is hitting shots as well, or if Tyree Eason is hitting shots as well. You got to be very careful with players on this Rockets team because their ceiling is so damn high. So that's really what it is. I think that that's not good for 4 wins, though. You could definitely be certain they're going to be good for about two, maybe even 3 wins in that situation. But 4, that's where I struggle. I just think that it's hard for me to see the Rockets being able to overpower such an experienced team with such superstars that raise their level to such a degree in Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and of course Steph Curry. I just think they raise their game so much that it's going to be hard for a team without experience, who doesn't have significantly great consistent shot making, even though they have all the athleticism that should be able to stop them and overpower them, to actually win in a 7-game series. So that's why I picked the Golden State Warriors to win this series in 6. But understand, body for body, I do see more athleticism and more capability on the Rockets side of things. So if the Rockets decide they want to run it down the Golden State Warriors' throat and pound it in the paint, get easy buckets with their big centers, then that might be a recipe for success to make it go the other way in 6, in my opinion. It's all about how the coaching staff on the Rockets want to utilize their roster, and if they're able to keep a muzzle on the cold hand, because that could be the difference in the series. You got to keep a muzzle on the cold hand, man, because y'all know y'all got some guys over there in Houston that if they overshoot and they're missing shots, it's not like they're going to stop shooting. They're going to keep shooting even if it's to the detriment of the team. That is not going to work against Golden State Warriors. Even if your defense is on, it's not going to work. The Warriors rebound the ball just well enough against really anybody to offset that major strength that the Houston Rockets also have in the boards. So it's going to be incumbent upon the Houston Rockets to hit shots and take quality possessions each and every time. The Rockets are a fantastic defensive team. Golden State had some good defensive years recently. I don't know if this is their best year for that, but they can play some defense at times. But they're a bit undersized. So it's tricky, man. It's tricky, but I just think the Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green factor, if they're not overpowered by just the sheer nature of supreme athleticism, Cam Whitmore and Terry Eason and Alperen Sengun and, of course, Jalen Green, if they're not overpowered by those youthful legs, then they're going to outthink those guys on the floor. So it's really a test to see if the Golden State Warriors are starting to lose a step. Are they tired from this long season where they had to play an extra game in the play-in tournament? Or do they have enough energy to keep up with a Houston Rockets team that probably is just going to run all night, all day, all night, and defend with high intensity? So, I don't come in this thing with too much confidence that the old guys are going to win this. But I am going to lean toward the old guys because I just think that the Rockets, though they have home court advantage, just have some serious questions that need to be answered about their poise, their shot making, and ultimately their ability to out-savvy guys who've won championships and played at such a high level for so long. What I do want to say is I think that whose wild dog is going to hurt their team the most is the question I have. Is it going to be Draymond Green or is it going to be Dillon Brooks? Because both of these guys have the ability to get in their own way and hurt their team with their antics. Which one of them is going to be able to keep balance for their squad? I think that's very important. And also, as I've already mentioned, but I'll reiterate, which one of these centers going to be more physical and more successful in being physical? And I'd give that edge to the Houston Rockets. Alperen Sengun, and Jabari Smith and Steven Adams versus Draymond Green, Quentin Post, Kevon Looney, and I guess Kuminga if they decide to deploy him. I give the edge to the Houston Rockets, which means shot making is everything. You need the Golden State Warriors, just like the Rockets do, to hit shots. Both teams must hit shots. If the Golden State Warriors run cold in this series for any reason, though I don't expect that they will, they probably going to go home, man. Because the athleticism of the Rockets, the rebounding ability, and the defense of the Rockets will give the Rockets the edge in that situation if they dumb it down in their shot making. So that's really what it is. Teams got to hit shots. Teams got to keep a muzzle on their dog. And the Rockets have to impose their will physically. The Golden State Warriors have to impose their will mentally. Which one of those battles is going to be the trump card? I think it will determine this series. So I'm going to go with the brain of the old guys who won a bunch of championships, and that's why I'm picking the Golden State Warriors. But don't make any mistake about it. There's something to be said for youth, and we've seen youth overcome old guys, especially when old guys too old. Are the Golden State Warriors too old? BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching.